Hello everyone, many thanks for joining us today to take a look at Dynamics HR Management. I'm Warren Butler, Head of Marketing at Preact, and I'm delighted to be joined by Michael Barry, Consultant at Dynamics HR Management, who will be leading the presentation today. We always describe Microsoft Dynamics 365 as a series of connected role-based apps that bring together people, processes, and data. Often, this is implemented to connect sales, customer service, and marketing functions, and in other instances, this can also include field service and project service teams. As we'll be highlighting in this presentation, businesses also have a lot to gain by bringing their human resource management into this platform. By embedding HR within Dynamics 365, it creates a series of benefits, and this will often include giving staff a better experience by enabling them to carry out their HR processes in the same Dynamics interface that they use for their everyday work. And doing this will also avoid costly integration projects between HR and CRM systems. By embedding HR within your main customer engagement platform, it will remove data silos and data duplication to lower admin costs. Also, from a GDPR compliance standpoint, there will be certainly benefits in protecting employee personal data within the same system that is already safeguarding and protecting customer data and is subjected to the same security controls and protection framework. As a Dynamics 365 partner, what excites us about the Dynamics HR management solution is the breadth of its capabilities within Dynamics 365. Realistically, in the time that we have for this introductory session, Michael is only going to be able to really sort of scratch the surface. But this slide is a good illustration of the coverage that it has across the entire HR spectrum, from recruiting, staff admin to talent management. All of this is seamlessly embedded within Dynamics 365. And with these HR capabilities accessible within Dynamics, Office 365 capabilities are readily available. And that means HR processes can be managed within Outlook, files can be shared with external consultants or trainers via OneDrive, and Skype for Business can even be used to conduct video interviews. So let me now bring in Michael, who will carry out the demonstration. Thanks, Michael.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Michael, and thanks for that warm introduction, Warren. As mentioned, today I'm going to be walking you through our HR management tool. I'd like to start off by showcasing the interface. As you can see in the beginning here, this is the standard Microsoft Dynamics interface. And as mentioned, you could have the different modules within the system that you may be using, whether it's sales, marketing, customer service, or project services. Our HR tool seamlessly fits in there alongside the rest of your stack. Within our HR management tool, we have different functional areas, starting off with the My Work area, and then beginning the employee lifecycle, where we have the recruiting module, the administration module, compensation, development, training, and finally, employee self-service. For today's demonstration, we're going to be starting off with recruiting. So at the beginning of employee's life cycle with your organization, I'm going to give you a rundown over the modules, and then we're going to take you into a deeper dive into the vacancies and applications and how that works within the system. So here within recruiting, you can create job profiles as templates. So if you're constantly hiring many candidates for the same roles, this way you're able to create a job profile and you're able to activate it to become a vacancy at a later point of time. Within the vacancies, you can control the framework of the vacancy. For instance, when you want to start it, when you'd like it to end, which publishing channels you'd like to have this vacancy showcased on, and then thereafter you would start receiving applications, and you would have an overview then of your applicant pools. You could do a deeper talent search, and eventually, once you have that star candidate and you'd like to hire them, begin the onboarding. So let's take a look at the vacancies. As soon as we go in here, we can see the current vacancies we have active. So for the different positions, we have some metrics available here. But for today's demonstration, we're going to go into the junior consultant role. As soon as we go into the junior consultant role, you can see immediately at the top here, we have a process. This process is something that we've developed, taken from the best practice feedback of our current customers, what we've analyzed within the market, and what is good practice. This is something that is configurable to every company, as you may have different processes, but as we said, this is just simply for handling your vacancy. So here we can see within the first stage, we've got the title. We're saying we want 2 positions to be filled for the junior consultant role. We'd like to publish this internally and externally. And before I move on to the secondary and third points, I'd like to just take you through here a little bit further. So it's worth noting at this point, we empower the HR teams or whoever's in charge of doing the recruitment to simply be able to create a vacancy from this page. No need to go anywhere else or use any other systems. By pulling the information from the job profile, this information would be pre-populated. You'd have the financial data, any activities associated. Once again, using that great connection to Microsoft Outlook and the rest of the Microsoft suite. At this point, you can also select the publishing platforms, so where you'd like this job to go through to. So we would connect the system through to these platforms. So for instance, LinkedIn, Monster, Stepstone, to mention a few. And then here at a later point, we'd be able to see the applications you actually have for this vacancy. To take it a step further, in terms of the job advertisement and what it looks like, the HR teams can create the job advertisement from this page. So essentially what you fill in here is what's going to appear on these job portals. So whether that's LinkedIn, Stepstone, Indeed, or you're going to make use of your Microsoft portal, this is where you control that information from. Creating a header, job definitions, job qualifications, any footers, as well as being able to have a preview of this information, how it looks, or how it would look, and then afterwards you can edit the vacancy details. So do some fine tuning in terms of your preferred methods of application, working time models, contract details, for instance. Going back here to the top, as mentioned, you could also use your Microsoft portal. So for the online customers, you have the portal. So here you can see we have 2 roles open at the moment. If I go back into this vacancy, I've set it here for the applicant portal, as just shown. And here we're going to take ourselves to the 4th stage called publishing, where we're going to actually publish this role directly there. So let's do that. So here we go, the 2nd stage, enrichment. We'll say that everything's completed. We're happy with all the data within. Next, it will go to approval. So at this stage, you would have management or anybody who needs to give their digital signature for it to go on to the next stage. And then as soon as we get here to publishing, we simply click here. We say, yes, start publishing. We'll save this page. We'll wait a few moments and we'll go through now to the portal where we'll refresh it. And you can see here's the 3rd position that's just appeared, the junior consultant. And as we go into that role, we'll see that the information showcased is exactly what was put in within the vacancy area. Here we go. As you can see, this information was what was showcased, simply created within the previous screen, and within this area, applicants can apply for this job and be able to go on to your application process, which you can configure as seen here below. Taking you back to the application area, just to finish off with the vacancies, you have the final part of the process, which is now after we've gone publishing, we're going to start receiving applications, moving on to selecting candidates, and finally post-processing, where we can say if the position's filled, yes, automatically it's not going to be pushed out to those publishing platforms anymore, or no, where it would continue to go on. But this brings us to the next area, which is applications. So as we go in there, we'll look at one of the applicants for today. We'll go with David Day. As we go into David's application, you can see once again, there's a standard process here at the top. And this follows just some standard processes that HR teams go through when they're evaluating new applications. So for instance, here we have new application. You can see some of the data is already populated. We can see David's come from Stepstone. See the date. It's not an unsolicited application. If we look down, we can see, yes, he sent a cover letter. The CV is available, as well as the referral. We can see he's self-evaluated himself using the skill rating tool within the portal. And at this point, we can already see on the skill gap analysis where he's actually falling short in terms of what is expected. So here the orange line is showcasing what we would like him to have for this position. He's been very integral and honest in self-evaluating himself. And we can see here that he is underneath what's expected. Nevertheless, if we would decide to move ahead with this application, we would go to the next step, which is initial validation, where we can say, yes, he's got his cover letter, CV, referral, and we would be able to see at this point, he's an average match. Where we would see his documents is if we look here and we go through onto his profile, into common, we look at his documentation, and here we'd be able to see what has he uploaded. So great, we can see he's uploaded his cover letter, his CV, and a reference letter, all of which is what's required to have a successful application with us. So we will move on to the next stage, which is the line manager feedback. At this point, the line manager can say, I'm happy with this application so far, please go ahead and call him, and then move on to the interview phase, and or at this point, you can choose to reject the candidate and send them back either to the applicant pool or put them in an inactive status. So let's progress ahead. Let's say that he is a solid candidate. We want to go for the phone interview. After the phone interview, you can fill these fields so we can see the notice period, some of the remarks, if there's a specific salary that David's looking for, what it is exactly. And afterwards, if we're happy with that, we progress to face-to-face interview, can add remarks, and finally, if everything goes well, if we're satisfied that he's a good candidate and it's worth going forward with his application and we'd like to hire him, we can go here, we select yes, tasks are completed, yes, negotiations are completed. We can even assign a digital contract to him at this point and make a decision here whether he's hired or rejected or any other options that you deem necessary. It's worth noting that there's workflows tied to each of these options. So for instance, if we hire David, automatically this document would become a read-only document. And in the administration area, we would have a new employee called David Day, and the system would pull that automatically. Likewise, there's a workflow. If we reject his application, it's going to get an email saying, thanks so much for your application. We appreciate your application. But we'd like to keep your details for any future positions if you're all right with that. So that, in summary, is the applications area, which brings us to the end of what we were showcasing today within the recruiting area. So as mentioned, next we're going to be moving on to administration. Administration area is populated with these different fields. You can see there's some areas here that are on a base level as well as strategic level. There's everything from being able to keep employees' digital files, digital contracts, keep track of disciplinary measures, work accidents, processing assignments. You can plan your personnel or your FTE for the upcoming years, benchmark them against vacancies and any openings that you have. track the attendance of your organization, have an overview of the global absence calendar, view any leave requests as well as leave summaries, create and maintain business closures, as well as be able to create any positions or plan any succession. Today we're going to be going into the employee digital file, which holds the information on all the employees' details. Before we go in there, I'd like to quickly just showcase. So this is where you'd be able to keep all of your employees. It'd be simply stacked here within this view. You have access to some standard charts, which you can use to filter a lot of the information. So without using the filtering tool, the graphics are interactive. So if you wanted to see some of the employees by department, by simply clicking on the department, it would filter the employees. In addition, you have a built-in organizational hierarchy, as we can see here. So for the employee Tanya Abel, we can see where she sits relative in the organization. These are her colleagues to the right, as well as 12 others. We can see she answers to Peter Schneider. And above Peter, we can see that he answers to Robert Bonderman, who's the CEO. We can also see who is at Peter's level in terms of hierarchy too. So that's the organizational hierarchy. Going back into the employees list, today we're going to look for Paul Morrison, and we're going to go into Paul's file and look at the information stored there. Great. So this is the digital personnel file, and this houses all the information you need to store on a specific employee. It's worth noting that there is different view types for different licenses available within our system. All this information here, it has a lot of basic and business information as well as sensitive data, but that's because this is for an HR manager level license, which is the account I'm using today. You also get different options, such as the next level down, which is a supervisory role. And you can see there, a lot of the more sensitive areas of the system have been removed with less features and functionality. And then finally, you have the self-service file, which the employee has access to, where they can see even more so limited information and change that information. But diving back into the digital personnel file, I'm going to take you through the different areas that are showcased. So here we have the business data, for your generic business data kept on the employee, any activities that are linked to this employee, you would see here. So using that set regarding functionality through your Microsoft Outlook, you can keep track of all your interactions with the employee from an HR standpoint, which is great. So apart from the business data being able to keep saved, you have the HR management details, so everything from employee IDs to health insurance, bank data, contractual information, anything needed for resignation and dismissal. We can see the leave management information, such as leave requests that have been made or in progress, leave summary information, sick leave requests. We can see that in a graphical view. Next, we have time management. So as employees are logging their time, either using external architecture or using a time tracking dashboard, that information would be stored here and it would stack historically. Next, you have skills and education. So here we can see soft skills, professional skills, and language skills. And here we have a skill gap analysis. So this is important for the continuous development of employees. You can see where they stand in terms of these skill metrics and where we are in terms of getting them to fulfill those expectations. Furthermore, you can store information here on education. So all formal education, whether it's certification, bachelor degrees, master degrees, as well as any trainings that have been participated in. You have performance reviews where you can review how Paul's been performing over time. You can see who's reviewed him. You can see when they took place and which type of review they were. What are the details if needed? Next, we have contract and wages. So we can see historically which contracts Paul has at the moment versus what he had in the past. Was there anything that changed? Within that, you also can see the wages, the different wages that are applicable to Paul. So anything from a bonus to a salary to commission, that would all be showcased here within the system, as well as you'll be able to track the payments made accordingly. Moving on, next we have medical records and equipment. So if any medical checks or records are needed to be kept within the employee's file, this is where you would store them. And alternately, you would also have an area for equipment. So for those new employees that are starting out, whether they get new equipment with the organization, this is where you can keep that. So this obviously makes the IT managers and the IT team quite happy. And then finally, moving on to the last areas, which is job history, where you can see the job history of the employee over time, as well as any disciplinary measures. And finally, private data and emergency contact details. So this is the employee's digital personnel file. And next, moving on to the next place, which is the development area. We mentioned that we were going to be looking at 360-degree feedback reviews. So for 360-degree feedbacks to exist, you need to obviously control the distributions. Who is going to be receiving this feedback and which employees are going to be involved in it. So here you would decide the distribution. So as soon as we go in, we'd look at the plan. So here we can see the employee affected. So the employee who we're going to be reviewing is Paul Morrison. We can see we can limit this to any areas, departments, or job profiles. But for now, we've just added his colleagues, which are other employees, and here they would be reviewing Paul. So here we can see the reviewers. And here we can see the status of who completed the review versus who's planned. You also get that summary up here on the top right-hand side. And to see the results of these reviews, we can simply go into the 360-degree feedbacks. Here you get an overview of the metrics. But as we go in for a bit more of an informative view, you have this interface here. So we can see the general information stored here, and here we've used spider diagrams to showcase the different areas, being average ratings, the direct reports, the peers, and the self-review. So this way you have an holistic overview of everyone's perception of Paul, his proficiency working, his relationship with his peers, as well as what he sees himself as. The next area we're going to be going into is the compensation. So taking a step back here, this is the payment summaries area. So although our system is not a payroll provider, those integrations are simply made from our system to your current payroll provider, and it's just a case of doing that configuration. For HR, it's important to note when and where employees have been paid, who's eligible for different types of payments. So we've created this area just to make sure that HR has the ability, if needed, to be able to give the information a once over before it goes through to your payroll provider. So here you can see the breakdown of the wages of all the employees within the organization, payment summaries if you want to pull a payment run for a specific period of time, any payments that are made. And for this to be successful, we've also added areas where you can monitor the commission or the bonus calculations that are needed as well through the achievements, commissions, and commission rules. But for today, we're simply going to take you into the payment summaries area. And as we go in there, we've got a payment summary already pre-populated. And here we go. So at this point, you would just name it pull it for a specific period of time, select the frequency and currency, and any departments needed. So in this case, we've pulled it for the whole corporation, and we can see here all the employees that have been pulled. So 72 employees, we can see the total amounts that have been paid, bonuses in the blue, basic salaries here in the orange, and then we can see how this has been processed. So we can see these are the wages. These wages and this information has been pulled from the employee's digital contract, which is found in the digital personnel file. We can also see the payments that were due. And here we can see if there was any errors in this going through to the payroll system. So this is good to note. Everybody's been paid, and HR is able to move on to the next month knowing that everyone is paid for the previous one. The final area we're going to be going into today is the self-service module. So here's where employees are able to log their own leave. So they're able to have an overview of how much leave summaries they have left, which leaves are in which stages, is it in a draft, is it approved. They can also log their travel, add any receipts if they've incurred any costs within the job. They can keep track of their scorecards, which is employees' way of keeping track of the reviews which they have, and also a good way to keep management updated on how the reviews are progressing. As well as here, we have the employee directory, where you can stipulate which employee information is able to be viewed by other employees. We've all had those cases. You try to contact a colleague, you don't have his or her details, and through this tool, you're able to view them. To take you into this, we're going to be going into the leave requests area. As we click there, we can see there is some leave requests made already. So we're going to a draft version. Here we have a standard process, once again, as you can see at the top. And this is quite simple. It's already pre-populated who I am. I can select the absence type, so whether you'd like your staff to have that ability or not. You can select from which date to when, if it's a full or half day event, any additional comments as in if needed. And then as soon as you save that, you're able to see, okay, here's my leave summaries. I've got 10 days of vacation left over, so I know that I can put this request in. But furthermore, I can look into my department. So here we can see I'm in a department of 2, myself and Ethan. And for the day that I'm applying for, we can see that it is all clear, as Ethan, my colleague here, doesn't have any leave booked for those days. So the department's not being empty, and I feel confident that I can submit this application through to management for approval. So I take it to the next stage. We get to approval here. Once again, there's a workflow in the background here. So the manager who needs to give that approval would get an automated email, and he or she would just simply click on the link, takes them through to this page. They would view the exact same information and then make a decision here whether this is approved or declined. On approval, the applicant will then get a mail saying your leave's been approved, enjoy, and or if it's been declined, they'll also get an email saying, please come see me. Unfortunately, we've had to decline your request for leave on this date. With that being said, that covers all the topics that we were going over today. I realize that this has been a relatively light overview, as there's a lot more features and functionality available in the system. But we've reserved the last 15 minutes of this presentation to answer any questions or queries you may have. Are there any questions or queries from anybody?
Thanks, Michael. Oh, that's great. Yep. I hope you found that a really useful introduction to understand how your organization could benefit by embedding HR processes within Dynamics 365. As Michael said, it's very much a high-level demonstration today. As you probably saw, there was a lot more capabilities of Dynamics HR management than we've had time to cover. But if you do want to learn more about this solution and perhaps arrange a more in-depth look at its features, please do get in touch and we'll be very happy to arrange that. We're going to pause for just a moment just to look at the questions that have come through. But if you are leaving us at this point, we thank you again for your time, and we hope to see you again soon.